Hello internet friends, my name is Catherine and I'm the human behind Creation Mix Couture, and today we are doing another Color Wheel Monday, the series in which I make my way through color theory one color at a time. And we are going from deep magenta up until electric violet today, so this is very exciting. This is almost the last one with deep magenta, and I already have some other ideas of what I want to do for Color Wheel Monday, which is not going to be a series where I make my way through color theory one color at a time, but where we are going to be experimenting with color theory and just having fun with colors. So I think we're going to be keeping this idea of Monday working solely on some shade of color or working on some specific gradient and things like that. And on Friday, we're going to keep working on just having fun experimenting with different dyeing techniques. So without further ado, let's get into today's episode. And we're back with another Color Wheel Monday, the series in which I make my way through color theory one color at a time. And we are going to be mixing our deep magenta with electric violet. And I'm very excited because this is a pairing that I absolutely adore. So the first thing we're going to do is our stock solution. What is the stock solution? It is the the liquid form of our dry powder. In this case, we're going to be doing 1% stock solution, so it's going to give us a 1% depth of shade for our mini skeins. So it's 1 gram of our dried powder with 100 milliliter of water. But the first thing we need to do before doing anything and opening any jars is grab our respirator. Doesn't have to be the specific brand, but you have to make sure that it's something that will be catching any fine particles so you don't breathe them, because we only have one pair of lungs, so we need to protect it. Okay, now that we are protected, we're going to put that here. So I need 1 gram. And always make sure that it has 0 before doing anything. So 1 gram of dry powder. Okay, we're going to be close enough. Now, when we're doing this one, we need to make sure that we are also zeroing out our jar. And we need 1 gram. Okay. So now that we have our dried powder measured, we need to incorporate 100 milliliter of water. And now that the powder is no longer in dry form, oh, I'm so sorry, we can remove our respirator so we don't sound as muffled. So that's good. And that's good as well. So now we can go grab our mason jars to do our gradient, because we're going to have the full gradient from deep magenta up to electric violet. Okay, so we're going to be doing the same as we did the previous weeks. So we're going to do 1% depth of shade, so it's 10 milliliter of our 1% stock solution of deep magenta up until our sixth one. And starting here, so this is the last one with 10 milliliter of our 1% stock solution. We're going to be reducing the amount, so 7.5 milliliter up until 0.05 milliliter of our deep magenta, and we're going to do the reversed for the other side, so going from 0.05, going from 1% of the shade for the 6 over here, and then here we're going to reduce the amount. So okay, so we're going to be starting with the deep magenta, so we're going to do all the 10 milliliters first. And now we're going to start reducing the amount that we need so we can do our 0.75% depth of shade over here. 0.5% depth of shade, and now we're going to be going into our 0.25% depth of shade. 0.10%. And 0.05% depth of shade over here. And we're going to do the reverse. So we're going to do our 10 milliliter over there. Okay, so now that's done. We will be able to do, we can already see the gradient. It's really fun. I love that. And we're using 10-gram mini skeins from Swish from Knitpick. So it's 100% superwash merino. And we have about 400 milliliter of tap water in each of the mason jars. There is no citric acid as of right now in those jars, so we are going to try to give as much time as possible to the yarn to have an even coverage of the dye on them. So because we don't have any heat and we don't have any of the citric acid, you can also use white vinegar if you want. So since we don't have any acid or heat right now, it's going to take a little longer for the dye to strike the yarn, which is what we want when we're doing tonal color. So that way we can have a better color penetration and a more even color as well. And this is also why we are moving the zip tie, opening up the skeins of yarn by doing those up and down in the mason jars. So those are all little things to help have a less patchy yarn, a more even coverage. So yes, and when you are prepping your skeins of yarn, you also want to make sure that you don't have tight little thread that would cause to have too much what's the word again, resistance, because the more resistance there is on your yarn, the more resistance, the more likely you are to have white patches or patches that are not properly covered, or just like not necessarily white, but they might be paler, so you won't have as much of a tonal as you might wish to have. And I've pre-soaked my skeins in water overnight. With superwash yarn, usually you can do it at least half an hour before you're doing a tonal. For tonals, I always encourage you to pre-soak your yarn because you will have a better color penetration like that. Because dry yarn is another way for the yarn to be to have resistance. The dryness is a resistance in itself. So, and now we're gonna go into the double boiler to put those in. Okay, so we're going to turn on the heat right now, so that way the water can slowly but surely get to the right temperature. So we are wanting to have a water temperature between 85 to 95 Celsius, so that way the color will strike the yarn properly and set properly. We still don't have currently any citric acid because I'm going to wait another 10 to 15 minutes to give a good chance to the skeins of yarn to have an even coverage. So the longer you wait for before adding your acidity, so either by adding citric acid or white vinegar, the longer it will take for the color to finish striking and enveloping the yarn. And you need both. You need the acidity and level, and you need the heat for the color to properly strike. And also, just a friendly reminder, electric violet is one of the color that really need both to properly strike. So if you don't have the right temperature, it's not gonna properly set. So, and the color will not show properly until you have both elements onto the yarn for it to properly show. So sometimes the color that you will see it's a lie. You can't trust that color because it's not the right color. Okay, so I will see you in 10 minutes when we're going to be adding the citric acid. So see you then. Okay, let's add the citric acid. It's been about 10 minutes, so we can do this, and I can already feel that the temperature of the water is starting to get there. So rule of thumb when it comes to citric acid is about 1 tablespoon per pound, so 454 grams of yarn or fiber, or 1 teaspoon per skein of yarn for the full skeins. So, but you can always check the acidity level of your water first, because some water is more acidic than other, so that can have an impact on how fast your yarn will the dye will strike your yarn. Because if you have a more acidic naturally water, like it will make it, oh man, I can't speak. If your water is naturally more acidic than others, it just means that the yarn, the dye will start striking before someone whose water is not acidic, basically. So we're almost at the right temperature for the water. Once it's reached that temperature, we're going to let it cook for 30 minutes. It might be a little more on the 45 minutes mark because of the electric violet, but we're going to check on it after 30 minutes, and then I'm going to check where we're at. If we need a little bit more cook time, we're going to do 10 to 15 minutes of more of cook time, and after that we're going to turn off the heat, because we know with the deep magenta that we will have color left over in the dye bath no matter what. So we're going to check that. So I will see you later. Okay, let's look what we have here. So we knew that we were going to have some pink, but that's okay. We are good. Yeah, that's what I was expecting. So we're just going to turn off the heat now and let it completely cool off before washing off any excess dye. So I will see you later. Okay, let's do this. So we already know that we're going to have a lot of color coming off for the first bath. So I can already see it. But we're still going to let this soak for about 10 to 15 minutes, and I'm gonna be back a little bit later. In the meantime, I'm just going to quickly show you how much color we have in our jars. It was to be expected because of the nature of deep magenta and of electric violet. Okay, let's take a look. Holy quick mode. Okay, so we're going to do the second bath because there was a lot of color, and I just want to make sure that we've got everything out, well, as much as possible. So we're already doing better. Oh, sorry, I think I hit you. We're already doing much better, but we're going to do a second lap just in case. And we're going to leave this on the stove for about 15 minutes and we're gonna come back. Okay, what does it look like now? I think we're good. I think we got most of it within those first few rinse off. Yes! That's clear, and that makes me happy, especially when it comes to deep magenta. So we're going to put this in the spin dryer, and we're going to let it dry overnight, and I will see you tomorrow for the final results. Bye. And here's the final result for our fade, going from deep magenta up to electric violet. And you can see how perfectly this fade is going, because you could easily use each of those skeins one after the next one without having to to change up, switch your skeins prior to create this fade effect. I think you could just go into the next skein and just have a perfect fade, and I really love it. So that's pretty cool in my personal opinion, and I really like how we go from this deep magenta and then we go into like a raspberry color up into the electric violet. I really like it. I'm very happy that we decided to go with the deep magenta to redo this experiment. Next time we're going to do the one with the which is going to be the last one with deep magenta, and it's going to be with the true black. So I'm very curious to see what we get there. So if you liked the video, please consider sharing, liking, and subscribing, and I will see you in the next one very soon. Bye!